Hey, I'll tell you a real story. A few months ago, a friend of mine approached me with the intention to help in one of my projects. He's got resources, he had money, and he wanted to invest some of them into one of my project systems. And then we started to discuss the deal. So who's getting what and what's going to happen. And I started to clear things up, to bring up questions which in my opinion are important for the future partnership. Because when we start a partnership, in most cases everything is so clear. He was very enthusiastic about the project. He obviously wanted to help me. He wanted to be my partner, and he was not comfortable thinking about what may happen in the future, when or if things will go south, when or if we may have some disagreement, when or if we may run out of money, and all that stuff. So when I started to ask all of that questions, when I started to convince them to put those details into the paper, to write them down, to break down our potentially successful partnership into more specific details of how that will happen, he started to become offended by that. When I ask him, for example, what will happen when we run out of money and then we will need another $20,000? So who will give that money, and who that person, you, me, or somebody else, will get in return for that? He was like, we'll discuss it later, or we will figure it out somehow later. We are partners, we'll figure it out 50-50. And I wrote a blog post about that. So because I see that pattern again and again, multiple times in my life. That was not the first time, obviously. I've met those enthusiastic partners many times. And I call that 70-70 partnership. Why 70-70? That's how I call the blog article, 70/70. Because that's the mindset those people have. And I don't think they're bad people, they're stupid people. They're just too positive or too emotional about the future, and they're not really experienced, most likely, in potential problems and potential disagreements and all sorts of troubles which may and will happen between partners. So when they come in, they say, I want 50%. And when you start asking them what exactly that 50% means, of who is gonna bear the cost, who's gonna pay for the losses, who's gonna take control of the bank account, who will control the ownership of the domain names. So when you have 50-50, you cannot 50-50 own the bank account. The bank account has a login and a password. The bank account has a signature. And in most cases, it's one signature, one person's signature. There has to be some director of the company, some CEO who makes the decision. If the company is huge, then all these rights and controls are regulated. But when the company is just two people, then it's difficult to decide who will actually, control the money. So it's not possible to have the 50-50 partnership. But they want 50%. And that's why sometimes I just tell them, look, you're going to have 70%. I'll give you 70%, and 70% will stay in my hands. It's a joke, obviously. It's a sarcasm. But that actually demonstrates that this situation is ridiculous. The situation is laughable. Because it's not possible to have 50-50, and I understand that. And if you don't understand that, I give you 70, which means nothing in most cases. Which this 70 means exactly that what 50 means, exactly what 40 means, exactly what 10 means. It means something which nobody understands specifically when we start. So if the partner doesn't want to specify all the details on paper, if the partner doesn't want to go into hard and potentially hurtful discussions in the beginning, then it means that the partner is looking for 70-70 partnership, which means that all the troubles will be resolved later, when the cost of that resolution will be high, when most likely it's going to be a war, it's going to be an inevitable and very dangerous and damaging conflict at the end. So I understand that, and I don't go into that partnerships anymore. I was doing that once when I was young. I was doing many of those 70-70 partnerships. I was getting into those deals, and all of them ended up badly. All of them were ruined and I lost. I lost businesses, I lost friends, I lost partners, just because I wasn't strong enough to bring up those difficult questions up front and ask them up front. What do you think is going to happen when we have a disagreement? Let's put it on paper. Let's decide who makes the decision, who is in control, and who is the minor partner. Or maybe there's a second thought coming that some of those people really understand what's going on. So they're not just blindly and with an open arms coming into the partnership with me because they trust me completely and they really want to have 50-50 with me, and they don't understand the consequences. Some of them, maybe, I also can assume that some of them understand that and they know what's going to happen. So they've been in those situations like I've been there, they've been there as well. They know that 50-50 means 70-70, means that we will deal with the problem later and the stronger one will win. And they're trying to scam me a little bit, to fool with me a little bit. So that also is possible, and that I can detect, I can determine that when I start asking those questions. When I start asking who's going to control the bank account, and if the answer is we'll figure it out later, or it doesn't matter, or don't you trust me, that's why you ask those questions. So if I hear something then I kind of suspect that maybe I'm dealing with someone who is smarter than me and who is prepared for the war. In that case, also, I would suggest to walk away, or to stress the questions and make sure that they're answered, and they're answered on paper, no matter how difficult it is. And in most cases, this conflict which you may have with those partners in the beginning, when you start asking those questions and they refuse to answer, refuse to to continue the dialogue and get into details. That means in most cases they are just not educated enough. They're not professional enough. They're not prepared enough for doing business. They think that business and friendship is the same thing. They think that business partnership is the same as having a good friend and having a beer together and having a good conversation in a restaurant. That's what they think a business partnership is. Can you actually educate them? Can you change them? Can you do something with those people? Can you move them to the higher level? I'm not sure. In most cases, my experience tells me that in most cases, those people will continue to work with you like they want to. So they will be unstructured, they will be undisciplined, they will be messy in their relationship management, and you will have problems in your business. Of course, if you have a partner like that, you will continuously, constantly, every day have problems, and eventually your business will collapse. So I would definitely suggest to select a partner who has a clear mindset, who has a very pragmatic and I think pragmatic is the right word, mindset. If you don't have that, if you see that the partner is not like that, then most probably you have to walk away, unless they bring you the really large set of resources. So if they're like a big investors and they have $1 million in cash and they're ready to put it in, so most likely you have to put up with their chaotic mindset, with their messy understanding of what partnership is, and just close your eyes and not teach them, but somehow deal with that type of personality, let's put it this way, because they have the resources. But if there's not a lot of resources on the table, if they're not giving you a lot, then most probably just walk away and find somebody else who will be on the same level with you, who will understand what a partnership is and how it's different from friendship. Read the blog article. It may clear things up a little bit more. It's quite short, but I decided to record the video to again stress that point, because right now I am also having potential partners. We're also discussing these deals, these partnerships, and I again and again face that situation, face that inability of people to negotiate upfront, not after things go south. Stay tuned. Thanks.